Hi, I'm Tara from the Marathon Mates. 2024 has been a very busy year for the Marathon Mates, and while it's not quite finished as of yet, we think it's time to reveal what is up next for the Marathon Mates for 2025. So, on this episode, we're going to talk about the races we'll be running in 2025, as well as the places we will travel to. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 74 of The Flying Runner. On this episode, we will be getting excited as we talk about what's up next for the Marathon Mates. We will discuss the races we will be running as well as the places we will go. But before you do any of that, let me introduce my co-hosts, my Marathon Mates, Tony, Lucia, and of course, Tim, my husband. So guys, how have we all been going? And most importantly, how's your running been going over the past week or so? Tony?
Okay. so me, yeah. We've been having a bit of a light couple of weeks since New York, and the only running really, I think I did a 3K or a 2K there as well during the week. So I was just good doing some smaller runs and just getting a bit of a feel for some things. But Saturday morning, I ran 3K in my new Saucony Speed 4s that I got for my birthday. That was awesome. And then fronted up on Saturday to run the 10K at the Gold Coast 50, which was, we were just talking about it. It was a nice, easy run. Just enjoyed it. There's nothing better than running alongside the beach and the ocean. Probably my only complaint, a little bit crowded, but, you dealt with it. And, I know a lot of people in my work association of runners that we call ourselves. Some of them were a bit frustrated. They were going for PBs and everything, and just the sheer volume on the course really stifled some of them and frustrated them. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought the Gold Coast 50, that's my first taste of the GC 50. I thought the way they do the bars and the beers and the music afterwards was pretty cool. It had a real carnival atmosphere, which I thought was cool. I caught up with you guys. I saw Reese out there on course photographing, doing whatever. It was nice. So yeah, it was a good weekend. How about you, Luch?
I think I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things after being sick for a couple of weeks. So had a full week of both run clubbing, some strength work finally, and went for my longest run in about 4 weeks yesterday. Just 10Ks, but it was good but I did my intervals like really short because I didn't want to push it too hard, and it was scorching in Sydney yesterday as well. But I was really happy with how it went. So I kind of feel that the momentum is coming back, which is good.
Excellent.
And we are all having a bit of a joke around all runners do it, where we say just, and even Luch just said just a 10K. We understand every distance is so important to us, but in our minds, I think what just means is we're not downgrading the distance. We're just saying, in our own words, is it's an easy run for us potentially. So for any viewers out there that sort of get a bit nervy about us saying just, take it as easy. I did an easy 10K or I did an easy 21K. The way Team Ellis goes, they'll do an easy 50 one day. So
yes, that's coming up. Promise. I just got to convince one over here. Yeah.
It's for all runners of all capabilities of any distance. So yes, just a 10K could be somebody else's marathon, and we respect that. If that is your your marathon is a 10Ks and we are downgrading it, we don't mean to downgrade it. It is your marathon, and that is a big deal.
Yeah, and even if you
100%.
even if you are just starting out, I should say, no, even if you're starting out and you're running 1 kilometer at a time, that's fantastic. You're out there, you're running. It doesn't matter what distance you run. We are not just here for marathon runners. We're here for all runners. So
Yeah.
we apologize if it comes across that we are just for marathoners. We're not. I promise. So it's not just a marathon. But anyway, Tim, what did we do over the weekend?
This week, I guess weekdays, but we then came and did Gainsborough Greens Park Run down here at the Gold Coast on Saturday. It was the first time we've been there. It was a good little course, good little community feel to it. It's a 2.5 kilometre course, so you got to run 2.5 by 2.5 kilometre loops. And it's a great little course. There's lots of crossover points where you cross over and see other people on the course. Volunteers were really good. It is only a smaller event. They generally only get about 70 people there most weeks. And I guess we're fortunate they're talking about having to move the course due to some community concerns. So whilst it's called Gainsborough Greens Park Run now, stay tuned. It will probably be called something different early in the new year at some stage when they move the location a couple of 100 metres down the road. So we did that on Saturday, and then on Sunday Saturday afternoon we went down to the GC50 to have a look at the atmosphere down there. We saw the 1.5K, the 3K, the 5K, and the 10K races, and we haven't seen the Saturday evening events before, but that was a really good vibe, as you said, Tony. We really do love the GC50. Turns out over the course of the entire weekend, with those races on the Saturday and then the half marathon and the full the 50 on the Sunday, they have over 7,000 runners over the weekend, which is just huge for that event. We ran the half marathon on the Sunday, and we had a good time. We just took it easy. We've had, as you know, a very busy couple of weeks in our legs, and our legs did feel like concrete for most of the way through it. So we just took it easy. We ran with our friend Brian. And helped coach him a little bit. He's running in Tokyo. It'll be his second major when he gets to Tokyo with his wife, Monica. We might get them on closer to Tokyo or just after Tokyo to get a report from them on how they experienced Tokyo. But one thing I really do want to note is GC50 is a huge weekend. It's, as I said, multiple races over multiple distances, but the major event that they do is the 50K race, and it's not an easy 50K race. Whilst it is fairly flat, it is really hot and sticky, as we've said. And our good friend Jen Kellett, who most of our listeners would remember from episode 33, went out and smashed the women's 65 to 69 50-kilometre road race world record. She's taken 2.5 minutes off the time for the world record, and she's taken 26 minutes off the Australian record at the same time, which was being held from 1999. So it's a 25-year-old or a quarter of a century-old record that she's beaten here in Australia. And it was her third fastest marathon ever. So remembering in Sydney this year, she set a PB in the marathon. She backed it up a month later, went to Chicago and set a PB in the marathon. This was her third fastest marathon ever in those 50 kilometres. So totally phenomenal. The world record hasn't been ratified yet. They still have to go through processes to ratify it all. But based on her time, it's 2.5 minutes or thereabouts quicker than the previous time set. And it puts her on the same list as Desi Linden, believe it or not, who's a Boston Marathon winner and one of the great all-time female American marathon runners that most listeners would know about. So she's in very good company there.
What's the process of ratifying the world record, Tim?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is she has to confirm whether or not she can use her net time as opposed to gun time, which she should be able to do. But then on top of that, I think she has to then get statements from GC50 themselves to confirm that the course is properly checked and the distance is correct, which it is because they have the Australian championships there. And then it's obviously got to go through to the governing body, who will then assess it and make a call on it at some stage once they've reviewed it, and then they'll ratify it. So I'm not sure on the exact process, but yeah, it's pretty cool. There's not many people out there that can set world records, let alone at 65 to 69 year age category. And on top of that, she was quicker than the 60 to 65 world record as well. So she is the fastest 60-year-old woman on the planet over 50 Ks, and no one above her age has got a quicker time ever either. So, and given that and she won't mind me telling people her age, she is 69 in quite a few months. She's approaching 70 very quickly. She's setting herself up for a very good year next year.
And she looked absolutely amazing coming in. Like, watching her come through that finish straight, she was calm, collected. She was giving us high fives, big smile on her face. She was happy. So whether or not she knew she'd had it then, but she just looked so happy. It was really good.
You know why she went well? She disclosed it to us afterwards that it was a Friday night. She was listening to the podcast and fell asleep. So she got extra hours sleep because she was listening to us on the podcast.
Well, as probably everyone does.
So yeah, something in it, I guess. If you listen to our podcast and fall asleep, you might actually set a world record.
All right, so thanks for that, guys. Now it's time to talk about the news. Excellent. So, Tim, what's been happening around the world of running over the past few days?
There's been lots and lots happening, Tara. So the first bit of news is around one of our favourite events, the Gold Coast Marathon. As we know, entries go on sale on the 3rd of December, which is only, will be the Monday after this podcast goes out. And the great news is they've announced a new schedule for 2025, and this one's got Team Melbourne.
Tim, sorry, it's the 2nd of December, sorry.
Oh, 2nd of December, sorry. I got my dates wrong. Yeah, it's Monday, anyway. So this one's got Team Ellis salivating. I was probably salivating more than worrying about getting the accuracy in the date. So they've announced that they're moving the 10K race to the Saturday. Typically, the 10K race is on the Sunday with the marathon. And they're now going to call Saturday the Super Saturday. On Saturday, there will be the half marathon, followed by the 10K, followed by the 5K, followed by the Kids Dash. And then on the Sunday will be the marathon. And the reason why they've done that is that it's aiming to give the marathon a bit more focus on the Sunday, but also allowing it to open up more places in the race and to allow for a little bit less congestion on some of the tighter parts of the course. And the thing that's got us salivating, it's hard to say when you're salivating so much, is that it's now possible to run all 4 distance races. So you can wake up on Saturday morning, get up, go and run the half marathon, back it up about half an hour, 45 minutes later, and do the 10K race, and then back it up again and do the 5K race about half an hour or 45 minutes after the 10K race. Have a good sleep that afternoon and that evening, and then go and do the marathon. So we're seriously thinking about it. We're calling it the Gold Coast Quaddie, the quadruple. But yeah, we're interested. What about you guys? Are you up for the Quaddie, Lucia?
I'm up for it. I'm calling it the GC Dopey. My problem is I'm going to have to change my strategy now, because based on my slowest half marathon, I'd have a really tight time in between the half and the 10. So I may have to train for a faster half to give myself some more time. And I've even managed to convince a friend to be, well, kind of acting as a support crew on the Saturday. And so that way she can have my stuff at the finish line changed. So that way I can change the T-shirt, dash over to the start of the 10. So if it's something crazy, I'm up for
it. No chance.
Come on, Tom. I reckon we could do it.
What about a lazy double then, the half and the full?
Yeah, no chance. I'll do the marathon.
You could do the 5 in the marathon.
We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I'm setting the Gold Coast as a goal race for me next year, as it was this year. So the best you're going to get out of me on the Saturday is probably I'll do a park run somewhere, just to turn the legs over with a 5. But I have no motivation to run 4 races in a row. And I'm hearing a lot of listeners saying, yeah, I'm with you, Tony. So, all right.
But
Interestingly, there's quite a lot of people that are talking about doing the quaddie on Facebook and on social media. So there's a lot of talkers. We'll see how many people actually really do sign up for it. But
yeah,
we've got maybe 2 and 3 entries here, at least with Lucia and Tara and myself. So
maybe that could be actually another episode where we talk about how we train for that, because Tim and I, this is something that Tim and I have done several times before, and we can actually probably talk about training strategies if people do want to do that race. So we might do that as an episode as well. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So the next bit of news is Cape Town Marathon. So during the week, Cape Town has, as you know, it's one of the 2 remaining candidate races in the Abbott's World Major Marathons. During the week, it's been announced that they've passed their candidacy requirement for the first stage following their recent running of the Cape Town Marathon back in October. So they've now moved on to stage 2, which is where Sydney was this time last year. So stage 2 requires Cape Town to meet the criteria that they've just met this year for a second consecutive year when it stages the marathon again on October 19 next year. So I'm feeling that come New York Marathon again next year around early November, Abbott's will be announcing that Cape Town is the 8th major marathon. I don't think there's any surprises there. I guess my only feeling is I hope they're not just trying to push these things through before they're ready. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
I agree. It's interesting because it took Cape Town 3 years to pass the first stage.
Yes.
Yeah, so very interesting to see what happens next with that one.
Yeah. And I just hope they don't degrade the whole series by bringing in events that aren't quite ready.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I suppose we're all having a little bit of fun in our chat by saying surprise, surprise around Cape Town passing its first stage, because I think there is an expectation, and that comes with World Majors and Abbott's coming out and saying, yeah, we're looking at a 9-star medal. So everyone goes, okay, we're going to have a 9-star medal. And I'm with you guys. I think that if they bring one in earlier than what they're capable of, or that the logistics aren't quite there, it could degrade the whole thing. So so I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. Some more news. Last week, 4-time Olympic gold medalist Sumo Farah, while on foot, reportedly pursued and caught thieves who drove away with his mobile phone. He was out jogging with his wife Tanya through his estate in Surrey in the United Kingdom. He put his phone down by the side of the road and was aiming to collect it at the end of his run. According to the Daily Mail, 2 men in a white van somehow slipped by the guarded entrance, nabbed his phone. He saw it. He sprinted after the trespassers as they drove away, and he successfully caught them and took back his device. I know we all think sometimes we can outrun somebody and we can chase people down because we're long distance runners, but that's pretty awesome to hear. So Mo Farah has still got it. He's still got the pace in the legs, and he can still chase down a car. That is pretty awesome news.
That is so awesome. Hey, Tim, I know it's not on the run sheet, but talking about multiple events, Sharon and I were actually, and I know you've still got another piece of news to deliver, but Sharon and I were just looking at something that we thought was really interesting, and it's the virtual Honolulu Marathon that people can do. And the beauty about this is, I'm just going to go through it very, very quickly, is you get basically a month to run it. So between December 8 and January 8 or 9, I think it is the time frame. And you can either run the virtual marathon, which is, of course, 26.2 miles. You can do the 2024 virtual Start to Park, which is a 10K event. Or you can do the 2024 virtual Halakua Merry Mile. And they're all got their individual prices from a virtual thing, and they'll send out your T-shirt and your medal once you've confirmed that you've done it. But you can do what they call the Big Kahuna Challenge and enter all 3 virtual events. And you then pick up the Big Kahuna medal as well as the medal for all 3 events. So, and seriously, $108, it's not bad value. You've got a month to do it. But you do have to show confirmation that you've, how you've done that virtually. So we're not going to do it because we're going to have a quiet December. But some of our listeners might be interested in getting some more bling. So
are they happy to post to Australia as well, Tony? I just know a lot of virtuals aren't happy to post to Australia, so just checking on that one.
Yeah, that would be. I haven't looked into it at that depth, but I would imagine that you would find that out once you've gone into. Let me just go through checkout now, shall we? And just see what it says. Because there may be another deferrals. Yeah. So there may be something. Let me just see if I can type in my address and see what it comes up as. While I'm doing that, Tim, continue on.
That's all right. I'm going to talk about the Athens Authentic Marathon, which was run recently as well. A 73-year-old retired runner from Greece. His name is, I know I'm going to get this wrong, Idomenios Avramakis. Has captivated spectators and fellow runners at the Athens Authentic Marathon by running in bare feet and full Athenian battle armor, including shield and sword, for the full 42.2 kilometers. He ran the whole race in barefoot and his Athenian costume in a time of 8 hours and 47 minutes. And it was the 18th year running in this particular marathon. It was the 18th time he's run it wearing historic costumes. So not only is he doing the Athens Authentic Marathon, but he's doing it as a tribute to the original marathoner himself, Philippides. And only 30 months ago, this particular individual suffered a serious car accident requiring a metal rod to be inserted into his leg, which makes this even more remarkable that he was able to complete it. So, guys, I know it's tough running marathons. I know we've talked about it before, but I still don't understand why people want to make it harder for themselves, dressing up in costumes and carrying swords and shields and, Tower Bridges from London and all sorts of weird things, rhino suits that we've seen over the years. I don't know why people make it harder for themselves, but that's what they do.
I guess it's all that challenge, isn't it, as to,
Yeah, I'd rather run 4 races in 2 days than run a full marathon.
I was just going to say, some people might think we're crazy. So, yeah.
So how do you train for that? Can you imagine the training runs that he would have been doing around his his local?
Yeah.
Good news is there is international shipping, so it was an option.
One excellent. So
yeah. So now I'll just empty my cart so I don't get charged. Yeah.
All right, and just one quick last bit of news is today the Sydney Marathon has announced that the general entry ballot will go on public sale from the 10th of December. So it's a ballot, a bit like all the other ones. You put your name in and hope that you get it, I guess, is the way it goes. So I don't know. I tend to think that if you put your name in, you've got a pretty good chance of getting in. I think they're just looking for a massive field to say it's their first major, and to get a field up in the high 30,000s or even 40,000s. It might push them a little bit, but I think they would just keep going if they can get good numbers, I think.
Luch, just remind me, how soon did it sell out this year, the Sydney Marathon?
It didn't sell out quickly. It was probably more, I think from memory, so the marathon was September. I want to say maybe around June, July-ish time.
Yeah, that's my recollection too. So
it's not like Gold Coast where it's almost like on that day of it goes on sale, it's gone, or that month it's gone. It's got a bit of time.
Yeah, like with the GC, I've literally blocked time in my diary so that way Noah can book a meeting with me on Monday at that time because I'm not risking it.
A different thing, Gold Coast has limited numbers because there's roadworks and tight course. Sydney last year was aiming to get as many people as they could so they could hit the targets they needed to hit. So there is a bit of a difference there.
Yeah, so the ballot, I think, is, I mean, people shouldn't be fearful of it, especially if they do try and ramp up from 25,000, which was this year, to this height. I mean, a figure being quoted is they want 37,000. So that's an extra 12,000 runners. And it didn't sell out just with simple registrations until 3 or 4 months prior to the marathon. So I think, I think if you're looking to run a major in the very first year of its existence, I think Sydney's going to be your best bet for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. Unless you go to Cape Town next year or the year before after. Anyway, that's the news this week.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Tim. So let's focus on the topic of this week, what we're actually going to be doing for the next year, I guess, because we're going to be splitting this up into seasons so that it makes it easier for everybody. So what we'll do is, this is going to confuse some of our Northern Hemisphere listeners because obviously everything's back to front for you guys to us. But first up is our summer. So January through to March. What have you guys got coming up? Have you guys got anything in your race calendar for that time of the year, or?
Well, not a race as such. Probably more of another wacky thing that some of our listeners, when I say, may not be surprised. So one thing I tend to do every New Year's Day is I always go for a run, regardless of how tired or hungover, even if it's a K. Because my theory is I want to start the year how I want to continue the year, and that's by running. So I saw posted on some run group running 25 Ks for 2025 on the 1st of January.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's your next thing, I guess, isn't it?
Potentially, or depending how I wake up on New Year's morning, but not that I've got any plans for New Year's Eve. So as long as it's not boiling hot, I'm going to do the 25 Ks. I don't care how long it takes.
Yep. Excellent. Tony, have you got anything in that time period?
So we're looking specifically at, what's the time period again? Sorry.
January through to March, just mainly. Is it more training, more racing? What have you got happening for yourself?
Yeah, fundamentally for me, what I'm planning is that I'll get back into training for the Gold Coast come in and around the 20th of January. So between now and then, I'll be just doing, a lot of easy running without any sort of clear or formal plan, but really trying to work out what does that look like in terms of strength and stretching for me, and just trying to get consistency around that. I will be doing the resolution run down on the Gold Coast on New Year's Eve. And that's been increased to a 13K this year, but I think they've also got a 9K event this year too. So they've adjusted their distances a little bit. So I'll probably just wander around, do the 13K there, get another medal to the name. But January to March, pretty much the only organized event that I'm looking to do will be the Run Army event again this year. We enjoyed that last year. It was a good 10K. At the time, it was my PB for the 10K. So, so that's pretty much about it. I'll be just building into my Gold Coast training and doing Run Army. So.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds like us. We're doing resolution run as well, the 13Ks on New Year's Eve as well. We'll do park run as we always do on New Year's Day. And then we've also got the Run Army as well. But Tim, what are we going to be doing? Well, what we're thinking about doing on Australia Day long weekend.
It's still very, but one of our good friends, Scott, is looking to organise a very simple backyard ultra out at Shorncliffe where we do our running. But we're not going to go the full distance. It'll only be 5Ks every hour rather than the 6.77 kilometres that you have to do. And it's only going to be capped, I think, at a 17 hour or
17 hours. Is to get 2 marathons in that time frame.
2 marathons back to back. So we'll just
finish with park run.
But 5Ks every hour on the hour. starting at whatever it is, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then finishing at park run with the last 5Ks being a park run. So we'll see how we go, whether we do that or not. We'll see how our bodies are feeling at the time. We'll run for feel. We might only knock out 20Ks or 40Ks or just a marathon.
Just a marathon.
But we'll just see how we go on the day and if we do that. But for us, summer training, it's a first for us. We haven't had any events early in the year for us to focus on for a couple of years now. So, for the last couple of years, we have been focusing. Last year with Boston in early April, and the year before that, Tokyo in early March. So it'll be nice not having to put the long distances in during the heat of the summer with the humidity and killing ourselves. So we can have a nice gradual start back into the year, which will be good for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hearing you for that too. You know, Boston 2023, Tokyo 2024, training over those Christmas, December, early January periods. I am not going to miss you, so at all. So it'll be good. So, so with the backyard ultra, they're called yards, aren't they?
Yes,
So,
each hour is a yard. Yep.
Yeah, so I might come along, do 1 yard, and then just get a yard glass and just down a yard glass for every yard you do. Is that the same thing? Is that the type of ultra?
I think I'll join you on that one too, Tony. I'm watching here. I think I'm just going to be going, yeah. I think that might be even pushing my limits. And yeah, I'm pretty crazy. So
no.
Yeah.
It's nothing official. It's not an official event. There's nothing on the line.
There's no medal.
There's no medal. There's nothing there. We're not asking people to turn up. It's just going to be probably about 4 or 5 of us, maybe 6 or 7 of us end up doing it.
But, might be quite a few, but yeah, we'll wait and see.
Last man standing, essentially, all of us get through the 17 hours or whatever it ends up being. Just a bit of fun. So we'll just see how we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, just Tony, when is Run Army? I haven't done that one before, but
April.
I know it's early April.
Yeah, it's 20. It's week. It'd be the 30th of March this year. So I've got it in my calendar as. So yeah, it's a great event. I loved it, and friends of our marathon mates, Paula and Andrew. Mary May did it. A lot of people love the event. So just get out there and join us. It'll be good fun.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Excellent. So we've got autumn or fall, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or however you say it in America, or Northern Hemisphere. But it's our autumn, which is actually from April through to June. So this is going to be leading into some pretty good race season for all of us. It's the start of the real official race season here in Australia. What have you got on the books there, Lucia?
So one of the few that I'm actually signed up for is the Hocker 10K. So it used to be called the SMH half, but then now it's been done by the Ironman group. So they've got a half marathon and then they've got a 10K. I did the half marathon a few years ago. I vowed I'd never do that course again because it is just brutal. The hills in Piedmont, I forget how hilly Piedmont can be. And then it does the same loop of Mr. Macquarie's chair as a Sydney Marathon, but it does it the other way around. And when you come up, you come up past Andrew Boyd Charlton Pool, and that is a steeper hill to come up. And I vowed I would never do that half again just because of how hilly it is. And I just curse it the few times I've done it. So I'm just going to stick to the 10K on that one. And then a new race, which I found, it's done by the Elite Energy guys who in New South Wales do a number of tri events, fun run events. So they've got a series down in Wollongong on Anzac Day. No, sorry, on the 26th. So contemplating doing the 10K on that one, which would be really nice because it will be by the water as well.
Nice, lovely. That'll be a good way to start your season off. So, and what about you, Tony? Have you got anything in that time frame? Are you going to do the GC30 or?
Yeah, no. We've got, this is April to pretty much July. Is that what we're looking at, or just to June?
Yeah, to the end of June.
Yeah. So what we've got planned is seriously just the Brisbane half. So that's part of our our process this year, looking at my my plan. During the month of April, I start to ramp up into 27 Ks, 24 Ks. I'll have a bit of a rest week. The week prior to the Brisbane half, I'm planning only a long run of about 15 that week, just as a bit of a taper. Once again, I've got a bit of a goal in mind that I want to do this year. As you know, last Brisbane half, another PB for me, and I want to do it again. So, yeah, so there's a bit of an effort going into the Brisbane half, but that's pretty much it. It'd be just starting to ramp up some training, getting some longer distances into the long run, but also maintaining that consistency of the stretch and the rest and the strength exercises that I need to have. Because, so with a bit of luck, it all goes well for me. So Brisbane Half Marathon, of course, is the first pretty much weekend in June. So that's
excellent.
Yeah.
And Tim, what's on our calendar? I have no idea.
Getting ready for the Gold Coast weekend, which is at the start of July. So we'll talk about that next. But through this period, we're bulking up the distances. So the first thing we do is in May, we do the GC30. So we'll do the 30-kilometre event down there. Then we'll back it up. I think it's 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later is the Brisbane Marathon weekend. So Tara, you're going to do the half marathon.
Yeah, I'm only doing the half. I don't plan on ever doing the full in Brisbane. So
well, I signed up for the full. So I'm going to be doing the full marathon in Brisbane. I haven't worked it out yet, but I might run the first half marathon with Tara because it's a 2-loop course, get her to the finish line and then take off on the second loop. So if I can run the first half in about 2 hours 30, like what we're doing at the moment, Tara and I, and then I can take off and start passing everyone in the second loop and see if I can get in sort of under 2 hours for the second loop. So we'll see how we go, but that's sort of a challenge that I've set myself there. But yeah, that's really what we've got through that period there is just those 2 big races, and they're good lead-up races for what comes in July.
Yeah, so I guess that's winter coming up for us then, which is July and September. So obviously we all know about Gold Coast because we've talked about Gold Coast already. Now that's the first weekend in July, so that will be a marathon for Tony we've talked about, and possibly the quadruple for Lucia and Team Alice, fingers crossed. That will take a bit of training, but 2 weeks after Gold Coast, we have got Jetty to Jetty. So is you going to join us on that one, Tony, or
No, it's not on my list, I'm afraid. So, and I know you guys love it, and it's a bit of a run-through event for you guys. So, yeah, the first after the Gold Coast Marathon for us, our next event's going to be the Townsville Half Marathon, which is August 3. And fundamentally, my wife's from Townsville, Sharon. Everyone hears so much about Sharon on this podcast, but and it's just going to be a great opportunity for us to go for a run in front of her family that are all still up there. So, so we're planning to do that. So that'll be part of our training, and then of course, fingers crossed, Sydney Marathon come August 31, and so they're the 2 biggies, the 3 biggies in that quarter, in that 3-month period. So Gold Coast. I'm happy to do the quaddie in regards to I'll cheer for 3. I'll stand on the side of the road and cheer you guys on. So I think I'll deserve a medal for that. And then running the marathon, but then fundamentally 4 weeks later, Townsville Half, and then I think 4 weeks after that, or less than 4 weeks after that, the full Sydney Marathon. So that's what we're looking at.
Excellent. And Luch, what have you've obviously got Gold Coast as well and Sydney, but have you got anything in between those two?
One of my favourite races in Sydney, it's the Real Insurance. They've got a 5 and a 10K, which starts down on George Street in the CBD. It's a really nice scenic route of Sydney, and it finishes at the Overseas Passenger Terminal. It's a good, flat, 1 or 2 very minor inclines, It's a good course to get a PB on. It's one of my favourites. They haven't announced the date yet. It's generally towards the end of July, and it's run by the same people which run the Sydney Marathon. So I have done it a fair few times. So all going well, I want to do the 10K, but all depending on how the body pulls up after the GC Dopey will depend if I try and give a 10K a good crack or not. Another one which I'm not going to do, but just to make our listeners aware, is the City to Surf.
Yes.
So City to Surf is mid-August. So it could be a really good training run for some people training for the Mara. They could incorporate it as part of their long run because it will only be about 2 weeks before Sydney. I'm not doing that one next year, because the crowds this year it just wasn't enjoyable. So I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. But I just wanted to mention that one for any of the listeners who possibly are doing Sydney and we want to incorporate that as part of a long training run.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I guess the only other one we'd be doing in amongst the Gold Coast quadruple, quaddy, whatever you want to call it, dopey. We can't use the word dopey. There's got to be a copyright infringement on that one, I would have thought. But we got Gold Coast, we got Jetty to Jetty, as Tara said, and then we're doing the Sunshine Coast Half Marathon, which is another fantastic event that we love. I know, Tony, you're not the biggest fan of it, but we love that event.
No, I actually really enjoy the Sunshine Coast Half Marathon. I don't think I would enjoy the marathon per se. And the reality is Sharon and I over the last couple of years have just not been able to sync Sunshine Coast in with our plans, because I'd love to go back there and do it. The last time we did it, I didn't have a pleasant memory because of a calf injury, but Sharon went awesome. So we loved the race itself. We love the format. We love the course. It's just that it hasn't been able to fit in. So maybe 2026. Is that our next episode? Let's talk 2026.
Well, we could probably map it out now anyway. We've probably already got a lot booked in. But on that Sunshine Coast Marathon next year, we'll be launching their new marathon course because it is the home of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic course. They are now looking at tweaking the courses to make them, align with the Olympic requirements that they need. So to show off more of the Sunshine Coast, I think. So
getting rid of the loops and
so it'll be interesting to see whether they head north or south from there, or whether they go up David Low Way and head up towards, Coolum, or whether they head south down towards Caloundra. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works.
Very much so.
So I guess then we're coming into our last half of the year, which is spring for us. So the nice warm period between October and December, usually that's starting to be the end of our racing season here in southeast Queensland, pretty much Australia really, apart from maybe Melbourne Marathon if anyone's doing that. But I do know, Tony, you've got something pretty exciting happening in October. So
yes, October 19 is the TCS Amsterdam Marathon. They'll have a field of 30,000 this year, which will be their largest field. Sharon and I are part of the registered group that will be starting from inside the Olympic Stadium. So, and looking at the videos, that's just going to be so cool, because basically the crowds are in the stands and they get you in your waves in the stands, and and as they call you, you come down, you run a lap, and then you head out on the course. So we're really excited about that. We've got family who are living in Amsterdam at the moment who are running it with us. So that's just going to be the big one for the year. Gold Coast is a goal race for me. I want to hit a time, but Amsterdam, I just want to enjoy it. So hopefully Sharon and I will both be in good fitness to be able to just enjoy that one. It's a 6-hour cutoff, which is probably the only challenge from our perspective, especially if we're not going to go into it really, really fit and healthy. But we know about it, so just so excited to be running Amsterdam.
So, Tony, is there an element of starters that start outside of the stadium?
15,000. So the way they've set it up, there was always 2 starting areas. So 15,000 is the max, the limit for within the stadium. And then there used to be a basically an external starting point, which was 7.5, and this year it's 15,000 in both areas. So inside the stadium sold out within the first day of going on registration. So now it's just the starting point B, they call it, I think, and that's still got entries left. But fundamentally, you miss out on starting in the stadium, but the rest of the marathon is pretty much the same thing. And you finish you miss out on starting, but you still finish inside the stadium.
Everyone finishes on the finish line in the stadium. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and I've heard so much about Amsterdam. It's a flat course. You get both the architecture within Amsterdam city itself and all the buildings, but you run a bit on cobblestones, which we'll deal with. But then it takes you out on a canal that has got crowds cheering you along the way. I'm just so excited. It's going to be a real experience for us. So looking forward to it.
I just have to say, don't accept any of the brownies on the side of the road as passing them out. That's
maybe
being Amsterdam.
Maybe the day after. They may come in good for they may come in good for some pain relief. And if any listeners want to join us, there's still registrations open for Amsterdam. And one of my many conversations that I had with Murray Marr on Celebration on night at New York was all about if we could get enough people, Tony, all you need to do, and they would organise it for us all. So it's probably a little bit too late this year, but maybe part of our role is in our podcast is identifying some of these other courses and marathons, and maybe if we do get a big enough group together, I think Murray Marr was saying minimum number would have to be 9. So if we could rustle up 9 people to do Valencia or Amsterdam, we may be able to even get Travelling Fit to organise it for us. So.
Excellent. And Luch, what have you got on the cards for that October to December period?
The only thing potentially is the Melbourne one, but the Melbourne 10K race.
Okay.
Because I've done the half there for past couple of years, and I want to see how I go racing the 10K because it's one of my favourite races. Finishing inside the G, I know I've said this before, but you just can't beat it. It is an absolute corker. So registrations for that one will actually open Wednesday. So by the time this airs, hopefully I'll have my registration because apparently when they sent out the expression of interest to register to get early access, they had 30,000 people sign up for an EOY for early expressions of interest. So I dare say it's probably going to be another very popular one.
Excellent. And Luch, just for our overseas listeners, you've just said the word corker. Can you just explain what that means to anyone who's not Australian? Because they're going to start thinking like, Tim, what's the gunk in the legs? And if people go, what's a corker? You may need to explain that to people.
And also, what's the G?
Yeah, and what's the G?
So corker it's just absolutely brilliant. Like it's an amazing experience to run. So the MCG is a Melbourne cricket ground and it can hold up to 100,000 spectators, all depending on what type of event is on there. So they recently had like Ed Sheeran played there, Tay-Tay played a number of concerts there. So when it's at capacity, it can fit about 100,000 people, and just seeing all the people there in the stands cheering you on when you come in, it's an amazing experience. It's very hard.
It's a real corker.
I just did a Google search and there is a definition for corker, believe it or not. So
excellent. I just thought just for our overseas listeners, they may need to know what the Australian slang is because
100%.
We all know what it is, but yeah. Alrighty. So what are we doing, Tim?
Yeah, we've got a quiet end of the year next year. So at this stage, we've got nothing booked in that last 3 months, but I'm sure once GC50 entries go on sale, we'll be booking in again to do the half marathon again next year down at Gold Coast 50. But apart from that, after we finish, if we get to Sydney, after we finish Sydney, there's nothing else on our radars. So we might either look for something else, or we'll just listen to our bodies at that point and say, it's been a tough couple of years. This is a nice, easy year. Let's just rest before we hit it hard again next year. So yeah, we'll play it by ear, I think. But yeah, just at this stage, just the GC50, just GC50.
Yeah,
Just a half marathon.
and I'll probably do the 10K again at the GC50, but try and get in earlier this time and get some accommodation so I can play up, because it does look like it's a great event. And I enjoyed having a quick beer after the race there on Saturday, but then having to jump back in the car and drive home was probably not as much fun as what we could have had. So Tony, plan better next year. So.
Excellent. So it looks like it's going to be a really jam-packed year, especially for the curls and you, Lucia. Team Alice are taking it a bit easier, which we really do need to. So I can't wait to get out there, though, and have some fun and catch up with everybody, and especially at Gold Coast this year, having you there as well this time, Luch, is going to be great. But
we might need to do a on the road episode where we record on the road.
Yeah,
we should do a meet up with our fans.
Meet and greet with the fans. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Anyway,
Once us does a meet and greet, but we can do another one. Yeah, we can do a signing event.
And if you do see us out there, please yell out, because we missed a few people that were actually listening to our podcast, and we missed them at GC50. So we apologise that we didn't catch up with some of the people that we should have. So anyway, before we finish up, we're going to get our tip from Tim. Tim, what's your tip?
Okay, I'll just get you to scroll up there.
Oh, do you not remember what your tip was?
I do. So basically what you need to do, and as you can hear from us, you've always got to have a plan to keep momentum and consistency going. I know, Tara, we've talked about it a lot recently, that you can't just stop having a race and then not have anything forward to look forward to. You've got to always have an event or something signed up in your back pocket ready to go to keep that momentum going. A bit like you, Lucia, waking up on New Year's Day wanting to set the tone for the year ahead. And I think it's a big thing to have another race in your back pocket ready to go for when you finish, so you've got something else to strive for and something else to aim for. And what that also does is it builds up more of a regular training base. So people get surprised that we can run the challenges we do and back up and do the distances we do. But a lot of it comes from because we're training constantly for an event, or where there's always something else that we're going for. So we're not going up and down so much in our training, but our training block is a very consistent training block every weekend, all year round. And I think that is a big thing, and I think that's helpful to help build up strength and resilience in your bodies, but at the same time to be able to keep you fresh and keep you going forward. And by having that extra event or having those things planning out, it just makes it easier to move from one event onto the next training block. But as always, as we always say, you do need to listen to your body. You do need to make sure that you are mindful of fatigue, and that as you are striving and coming out of one race, that you've got another race to go for, that you are having those breaks in between. And it's a bit like Tara and I. We've done a lot of racing lately, but even on Sunday, we just took it very easy at the GC50. We cruised through it, but we know our legs are very heavy. They feel like concrete. And now for the rest of this month, whilst we've got a race at the end of the month, it's not going to be a race. It's just going to be a nice little stroll for us. And pretty much we'll put our bodies to sleep now for the next little while. And that's what we'll do. So, yeah, that's my tip this week. Always have something to keep you moving forward, another race to aim for.
Yep. Yeah, keeping that base foundation is quite important. And, yeah, Tim and I, we do keep a rather large base foundation of around about 21 Ks for every Sunday run, but that doesn't have to be for everybody. Everyone can just do it as they need to. But keeping a base foundation does help prevent those injuries, and it gives you something to look forward to, as you said. Yeah. So before this episode ends, we're going to have a chat to Lucia about what's on for next week.
Well, actually, you're talking to me about what's
happening
next
week. I'm so sorry.
I forgot to take Lucia.
That's all right. Lucia just goes, oh, my God. Okay.
We'll
Thanks.
talk to you.
So thanks, Tara.
No worries.
So
Thanks,
on next
Tim, for
week's
doing
show,
lunch so well.
I get excited about every episode we do because it just gives us a chance to talk about running. But next week, we have got what I would consider will almost be an exclusive for podcasts here in Australia, because a person in my network, Dale Q, is running the Shanghai Marathon. Now, for all of our listeners, the Shanghai Marathon has taken over the candidacy that Chengdu Marathon used to have with the World Majors. So it's on course to become the 9th World Major. And it's going to be really interesting to hear Dale's experience around the race itself, the logistics of getting there, and everything that we love to dissect around World Majors. What was the expo like? What was the crowds like? What was the fans chasing you on? So he's going to give us a real first-hand look at the marathon and everything that it has to offer. So the races run Sunday the 1st, and we'll be talking to Dale on December 3. So that's 2 days after, and then releasing it to everyone. What's that? 3 days after that. So you're going to hear about Shanghai pretty quickly, which I think is a real coup for our listeners. So if you've got designs on running Shanghai and getting your 9-star medal with the World Majors, tune in next week. You're going to want to. So that's what's happening next week.
I can't wait to hear if they're going to, like, what products they're going to have at the expo. If there's going to be roofing solutions, people doing your hair. That's what I'm really intrigued about.
Well, in Shanghai, there'd be a lot different
Noodle making.
Yeah. Who knows? Anyway, so thank you, Tony. I can't wait to talk to Dale and hear about his experiences in Shanghai. And obviously, we've come to that time now where we're wrapping up an episode. I'd also like to thank Tim, Lucia, Tony, my marathon mates, for joining me. And thank you guys for doing this every week with us. It's great fun. Always fun to talk things running. And as always, we love recording these podcasts for you. So our listeners, if you want to give us any feedback, please do so. Please like the episode wherever you're listening to it and leave some comments or send us a message via our social media pages. We've got Instagram, Facebook, and Messenger, or you can send anything through via our email address at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. So as usual, video of this episode will be available at Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be on Apple and Amazon and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
See you later.